Hey Curt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I hope you're having a good day.
It's been a pretty good week. Pretty good week.
We're
For
about
sure.
to experience the best of weather Georgia has to offer. Cool mornings and it warms up during the day. It's a wonderful time of year in Georgia.
Look, we have a new worship leader at our church and they're from Texas. And they actually came in August and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so hot and humid. What in the world is happening?" I was like, "Well, just wait. Just wait."
Yep.
Um and Now it's gotten to back in September when we were meeting as a life group. They showed up and it was probably like, I don't know, September like 12th or 13th or something like that. And it was the first day of like, because we have those different types
Yeah.
of seasons in Georgia. You have the fake fall, and then it goes back into
Summer.
summer.
Yeah.
But now it was like pretty much that first day of fall, and they showed up in their fall, flannel and all this sort
Yeah.
of thing. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is incredible. Is it always like this?" I was like, I mean, the best season in Georgia is September, October, November. It's
Just about
just
after the third football game, you got good weather. So,
no doubt,
yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah.
And so I it's the thing about the South that I will always keep me in the South is just that time of the year, because it is
No,
magical. That's
it's
for
good.
sure. Yeah, and timing and all of that is a big part of our conversation today. We're gonna be talking about boot camps, which I know that many people that maybe are listening to the show are like, why are we talking about boot camps? Are we talking about workout boot camps? Are we talking about the military? Like, what in the world are we going to be talking about? Listen, go with us. I think that there's some really good practical advice. Even if you are a leader of a business and you want to think about how do you think about your onboarding, you could even be thinking about, like, if you're in the church world, for example, what does it look like to have teams come together and think about how to put them through boot camps? Because it's not just about skills, right? Like,
No,
and
I,
it's
I
not.
think, yeah, I think the cool thing, Trey, is going to be, and I want to just tease you real quick. If you're listening and you're outside the Juice Plus world, there's some great advice on why you have events of this type and how do you drive and create them. But for you Juice Plus leaders out there, we're going to drill down and you're going to take some practical things away about audience, about hosting. And I'm passionate about this because I've been doing it for over 30 years. So I think I've had some School of Hard Knocks lessons to teach you.
Yeah, that's right. So this is accompanying a video series that we're also putting out there. And I know that, like, one of your challenges is like when your motor gets revving, like, you want to go deep, right? You want to go and talk about these things. And so we talked about how the podcast could be really that is a place for you to dive a little bit deeper into some of the concepts that we're putting out, and that those 5, 6 videos that are 3.5 minutes long, 5 minutes long, or
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean,
um
they're hitting the highlights, but they're just not, you can't think through the details in those. You're hitting the highlights.
Yeah, but you've been doing a boot camp since 1989.
Yep.
And my question is, why did you do this first boot camp? What was the point of it?
I didn't even set you up, but that's the best question you could have asked. I mean, for you guys who don't know, Trey and I did not meet ahead of time and have a script. This is really us. We decided on the topic, but we're being really spontaneous. So you're hearing from our hearts. You're not hearing from a prepared agenda or itinerary. And that was a great question, Trey, because the first one we did was about 13 people. And it started out for leadership only because I didn't think I had the capacity to handle everybody. So the goal of the first boot camp was for to bring our leaders in, and there was one thought in our mind was let's all get on the same page with the same focus so that we can have the synergy to work this new year in front of us. We did it in January. That was one of our boot camps. So it was how do we as leaders come together, get on the same page, sing from the same hymnal, maybe even have a theme for the year. And so we started. In the first few years, it was leaders only.
So now what do these boot camps look like?
So they've evolved because I think anytime you do something well and the word gets out, the ones that didn't get invited, they really want to come even more. So what happened was people that were not on my team and maybe they didn't have the leadership above them that was doing something similar, they wanted to come because they felt like, wow, this is awesome. And they're hearing how good the events were and how we were planning the year out. So it spread to some leaders on some other teams that I didn't financially benefit from, but I was glad to share the resources. And then it evolved one step further, and instead of it just being a leadership boot camp, we decided to bring in the rank and file and have maybe a leadership session on the front end or back end. But we said everybody needs to benefit from this, so it became a boot camp, an intensive kind of, to like, if you're new, or if you're not equipped, if you'll come and spend these 3 days with us, you're going to leave there equipped for the journey.
Hmm. Okay. And so, we did this video series because we wanted people to get a little bit of insight of like why boot camps are important
Yep.
and everything like that. But this is where like I were gonna say where you're gonna divulge some of these secrets because these things have been wildly successful.
Yep.
Like I know that sometimes we're like looking at boot camp registration, we're like, oh gosh, we need to have more, but like these things are pretty big now.
Yep.
And it's not that like that's necessarily a measure of success, because really that is what's really important. Measure of
Yep.
success is not about how big it is, how many people come, even though it's fun, right? You can create a
Yep.
cool atmosphere and all that sort of thing. Um, but it is about the ultimate outcome that you get. So
So I got to tell you one thing right there.
sure.
There's
Yeah.
you know this guy. He's from Dallas Theological Seminary, from the Hendricks School of Leadership, Dr. Howard Hendricks, and he's been my mentor and the one I've looked at if I wanted to be a good teacher, a good educator, a good leader. And he said this one thing, Trey. He said the teacher has not taught until the student has learned. So the teacher doesn't measure how good of a teacher they are by their presentation, by their lesson plans, by how fancy they are and how well and they execute the English language when they're teaching. That teacher is going to be measured by the students learning, you know. And that's what we wanted to do with the boot camp. We wanted people to leave there better equipped for the journey, or it wasn't a success.
Yeah, and so when I was a teacher, we used to look at lesson plans this way, is that you can plan lesson plans by being like, "Oh, this is the content I want to cover." Okay, that's great. We talked about understanding by design, right? So like we're going to actually design with the goal of what understanding we want people to walk away with. So my question to you is that when you think about a boot camp, whether it be your boot camp or another boot camp, what is the right way to think about the outcome?
So one of the things I have to think about is everybody that's there, me included as the host, the speakers and the attendees, they've all made a big sacrifice to be there of some kind, whether it's getting babysitters, missing a kid's ball game, the hours of preparation they put in to create their presentation. And I mean, I put my credit card on the line with the facility, and I've got hours and hours of a whole team putting into this thing. So there's sacrifice made. So one of the things I want the audience to know is I know you've made sacrifices to be here, but these leaders, they have sacrificed and they've come here to pour into you so that when you leave here, it's not just another Monday. The way I measure that is, and I'll remember Dr. Tim Elmore, who's the founder of an organization called Growing Leaders, and he's got a series of books called Habitudes. And Tim's a great friend, so if you want to get his books, he'll bless your socks off. But he's an expert in visuals, and one of the things that he taught me and taught me very well was that when you got a presentation and a situation like that, that everybody that's there, when you leave, you need to be changed, or it was all been a waste. And so the way his visual is a thermometer and a thermostat. And I don't know if you've seen this visual before, but if I ask an audience when I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, what does a thermometer do? And you pause, and the answer to that question is it reads the temperature. It lets you know what the temperature is. It has no function beyond that, whether it's in a baby's mouth or the new scanners on your forehead. That thermometer is reading the current conditions, the temperature. And so you can go home and Monday hits you, and all the chaos of school and lunches and commute to work and household things and feeding the dogs, all that stuff hits you, and you just give in and you adjust all your new focus and energy and what you've just learned. You let current conditions take over, and you never put to practice what you learned. But what my goal is and how I decide that their outcome and that it was a success is they don't go home as a thermometer, Trey. They go home as a thermostat. That was the other picture. What does a thermostat do? The old ones just have the dial and they work great, but the new ones, I mean, they monitor. You can even control the suckers with your iPhone. You got all kinds of ways you can control it. But you can go home and say, I don't like the temperature. I'm going to change it because I'm equipped now. I've got the confidence, the belief. I'm equipped to set the thermostat, not go home and be a thermometer. And your life will change forever from that point forward. So that boot camp to me has been a success when you go home and you're a thermostat. And here's how I know it. When you come back to the boot camp the next time, you wouldn't believe how many people, Trey, come back every year and they're not changed. So there's that group that they're just become boot camp junkies and they don't let what they learn take them to higher levels. But then there's that other group that they went home and they became a thermostat and they come back and they've got 10 new team members and they learn something. And oh my gosh, it makes me feel so good. My sacrifice is worth it. And let's keep doing this because we're building leaders.
Yeah, and so let's dive into the actual mechanics of a boot camp, right? That
Sure.
particularly like when you're planning and thinking about it, speakers and audience is a really important part to this. So, how do you go about thinking about what speakers to bring to a boot camp, and how does that play into when you are considering what the audience is?
It's actually not very easy because at these boot camps, if everybody that was coming was 3 months into the business and they were at this same level, and I could spoon feed all of them based at the level of development they were at, it'd be really easy to develop the agenda for the weekend. But at these boot camps, you've got the leader of leaders that might bring 50 on their team there, and people are at all various stages of development. So what I know is I have to feed the beginner the basics so that they understand that the three parts to our business are retail, recruiting team members, and training. So it's a three-legged stool. Those three things have to be taught in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But then I also have to equip and teach and train the leader so that he doesn't get bored. We do say something that John Maxwell also said too, is leaders never get tired of the basics because it's the basics that got them where they are. And they may not need the basics for themselves again, but they need to master the basics and stay in that place because that's how you reach down and teach the next person. So you got to cover the basics, and you've got to equip the leaders to deliver the basics. But there's one more thing, and I think this has maybe separated us from others is I learned way back. Somebody gave me a book called The Issachar Factor, and it was about a tribe that was successful, a Hebrew tribe that was successful, and their success was given to this one key fact, and that was they knew the signs of the times and they acted accordingly. They knew what was going on, like right now in the moment. So I don't just do a boot camp based off historical training, what we did for the last 5 years or 10 years. I really try and bring in what's going on current events wise. Like right now, if we did a boot camp, we'd be talking about our digital transformation is part of that boot camp because we're going through that in this moment, and it's the big elephant in the room. And if you just went back to the historical model and didn't talk about the big elephant in the room, people would think, well, I didn't get what I needed. So it's the basics for the beginner, it's the basics for the leader so that they can teach the basics. And then it's also being attuned and knowing the signs of the times, what's going on in the moment that you can't, not acknowledge. And you need to have a speaker, or, sometimes I become that speaker if I can't find the right person that's going to, analyze the times and jump on it. So I
Yeah,
hope that answered your question.
it definitely did. There's another thing that you do that I think is just so interesting is you pack the schedule. I mean,
Yeah.
these speakers are back to back to back to back
Yeah,
to
we don't
back.
give them bathroom breaks. We don't. We never.
So tell
We
us
don't believe
more.
in
Like,
that.
why? Why?
Well, the bathroom breaks is a funny, but I mean, it's actually the wisest thing we've ever done. And I think if people planning events, if you want to understand the concepts of bathroom breaks or no bathroom breaks, just listen right now. Okay, if you schedule bathroom breaks and you're going to put 15 minutes or whatever on the schedule, did you know what you're doing? You're creating a bigger problem than you're solving because you're telling everybody to go to the bathroom at the same time. and there are not enough stalls, not enough urinals, or whatever sex you are going to the bathroom, and you're going to be waiting and waiting and waiting, and they never get back within the 15-minute deadline. So what we say is get up and go when you need to go and just get back as quick as you can. So we do keep the pace going, we do keep the room moving, but if you know, also everybody doesn't have to go to the bathroom at the same time. So if it's at 10:30 to 10:45, what if everybody in the room doesn't need to go then? So it's really a bad way to manage an event, honestly, with the bathroom situation.
Yeah, and
So
I think the other thing that you've told me before is just around stewardship, that
yeah,
at the end of the day, like, people traveled a long way to be
yeah,
here, and they wanna be equipped, and
yeah.
and the truth is let's pack that schedule and make
Yeah,
it
well,
happen.
that was a funny. I mean, the
Oh,
bathroom,
I
the
know, I
bathroom's
know.
not the real issue, but people look at our schedule and say, "There's no breaks in here. When am I going to go to the bathroom?" That's one of the first questions we get when they see the agenda. But you're right. I would rather it be overflowing with information in full than I had being all this downtime where you're just teasing them like with table talk and table chatter or whatever. So we break our boot camps down really into 4 sessions because they come in on Friday. Friday's kind of the travel day. Most people, if they're not full time with our company, they take a half day off work. They don't have to miss a full day of work because at our boot camp, since they're spread out, usually people are driving in, not flying in. There are a few that fly. So they get there and you do dinner and you have an opening act, and there's meat in that opening act, but you also have to acknowledge people are tired. They've been traveling all day. I mean, do not try and keep the thing running until 10 o'clock on Friday night because you're going to lose people. They're tired. And when you have a tired mind, you don't absorb things very well and you get irritable or whatever. So Friday night is like usually it's an intro, what to expect for the weekend. Trey, have you ever heard the saying, if you're going to do a talk, what you want to do is you want to tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. And so on Friday night, we kind of do that. We tell them what we're going to tell them this weekend. And so they know what to expect. They sleep well. They sleep in expectation about the new day on Saturday. And we have one keynote speaker on Friday night, usually a medical doctor or somebody that's a pace setter in our industry that's leading in our business. And we'll have an hour talk. But Friday night is just, hey, we're glad you're here. We want to just give you a little bit of meat to kick it off, but I don't overwhelm them on Friday night. And then Saturday is like all day long, wide open from 7:30 breakfast to kicking off at 9 o'clock and get in your seat because we're going to give away a prize. And we just keep it running wide open till about 5, take a break, and then we have the biggest party in the boot camp industry. We go into a Sunset Valley, a pavilion, and fun's so important. And pictures are taken, social media lights up, and then we go to bed. That's a later night because they're there and they're rested. And then Sunday morning, we have an optional devotional service. We eat, and then we kind of wrap it up and we try and tie it in a bow and send them off because the goal is to go home and be that thermostat, not the thermometer. And we're really conscious of that on Sunday.
Yeah, and you mentioned this party thing, because I think this is important too, is that we just talked a whole lot about, like, these things are, information, information, information.
Yeah.
And so location and about
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
and venue and all of that is essential too.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about how you think about that when it comes to planning and thinking through a boot camp.
So I actually think the most important part of the boot camp is relationship and community building. I don't think the X's and O's and the lessons are the most important part because, you know, you and I can learn a new skill. Let's say we learn how to use a new video camera or something, and that's cool, but we're not taking that with us into eternity. But the time you and I got to spend together talking to each other, each of us playing with our cameras or whatever, I'm just using that as an example. Each of us working our business together, whatever we're talking about, the relationship that we've built in that process as part of that journey, that's going to eternity with us. That relationship that you and I have. Um, Assuming that we both, have put God first and understand his grace and his sovereignty over our life, and we've got eternity secure. So knowing that, and you have an opportunity to share that too, but that community building is so important. So we really try to make a big deal out of that. And so Saturday night at this venue. I mean, different venues, but Blue Ridge, I'll give you as an example. You can go to blueridgebootcamp.com and you can see the pictures and all the scoop about this. And peachtreebootcamp.com is one we do in January. But our summer boot camp, we moved from Atlanta and humidity and a concrete jungle that's hotter than Hades during the summer. We said, where could we find a place that people would love to come to? If they're going to sacrifice and get away for a weekend, a girls' weekend, a business building weekend, a team weekend, or maybe you drag your family along and they're playing while you're working and you rejoin them. What could we do to find the right place that would like be desirable to go to, instead of a sterile hotel in Atlanta? And we've anchored that, and that's not since 1989. That's since about 1998. I don't know the exact date. I could figure it out, but it's sometime in the 90s. We've been doing the Blue Ridge Boot Camp, and it's in the mountains. I mean, it's 20 degrees cooler up there in the summertime, and it's where the people are, because I wanted to make sure it was convenient. So it's like at the corner of Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Tennessee. So I mean, it's like
Right there.
people can converge there, and it serves a big audience. So, but we have so much fun, and we dance Saturday night. We bring in a DJ or a band depending on the year. But the coolest thing we do is it's in a pavilion that's in the valley between the mountains, and the sun sets right there in front of the pavilion. And there are not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands of pictures to create memories with relationships that happen just because that venue is the setting to make that amazing. And so, you know, we could have it somewhere else and the content would be just as good, but I don't think there's anywhere else in the country where that Saturday night community relationship building event takes place better than it does at Blue Ridge.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we got to wrap it up here, but I wanted to just do this last little piece about boot camps is just around don't go it alone.
Yeah.
So you don't put a boot camp on by yourself.
No.
You have a team of people to help you,
Yep.
particularly at the size that you are. You didn't probably in the very beginning, but when you think about team, how important is team in a successful boot camp?
I'm gonna give you a long answer here, or maybe not too long, but I do want to finish this because this is probably maybe the most important thought we've talked about today. So when I pick a speaker, I'm going to start there. I'm talking about team. When I pick a speaker, I ask people to come that are going to have team at the event. What a great way for you to shine as a leader, for you to be up in the front with a microphone, prepared to deliver a message from your heart. And the people on your team are there to watch you lead them well. It solidifies you as their mentor, that's one that holds them accountable. And so I want people to be on the platform speaking that have the most people in the room that are on their team, because that's just how we duplicate and replicate, and you build new leaders. You build the next generation of leaders by having the right people on the stage. So number one, I invite people to speak that I know are going to have team at the event. That's number one, about who you get there. And then the second thing is if you're going to be in the audience, if you're brand new, you may not have team yet. But if you're in the audience and you're there because you want to be better equipped for the journey and learn, one of the things that you're going to do is you're not coming alone. I mean, just use the one example we talked about. It could be going home and doing events. It could be going home and doing three-way phone calls, working on a memory jogger. But let's just talk about the thermostat. What if you had somebody that came with you, or a group of people that came with you, and you all went home and you decided, hey, I want you to hold me accountable this time to being a thermostat, not a thermometer. And you go home and you lock arms and you do this together. And so instead of just you being equipped for the journey better, and you may be having to go home and try to regurgitate and everything you learned that weekend and spit it back out with nobody to walk that journey with you yet because you haven't taught it. But what if you went home with 10 people, 5 people, 6 people, 2 people on your team that were ready to go charge hell with a squirt gun with you, that were ready to be that thermostat, even though the thermometer and the things of this earth are just like trying to, oh, come this way. It's okay. You don't need to do that. You know, you got laundry, you got things to do. So that accountability by bringing team is so important. That's how duplication sets in. So the goal is for the leader to have team there so that they can have high impact. And then the second goal is for you to come as an attendee and bring team with you. That's the sign of growth because
Mm,
that's where duplication starts.
that's great. So Curt, I know that, I think this episode's releasing at the end of October, and you're going to be doing something at the or the beginning of this month, but it's something that we had just released at the beginning of October. It's the Power Hour. And
Yep.
so give us a little bit about like what this Power Hour that we've created for and why people should be checking this thing out.
So first of all, I don't want to take credit for being the original Power Hour person. It has been going on in our industry. There are a lot of industries that say, hey, take this special moment of the day, seize it, and do it over and over with consistency, and you're going to be successful. And that's true. I mean, just the principle is true. If you will isolate that moment every day, I mean, maybe one day you'll get to do 2 hours, maybe one day you'll get to do three, but if you just take 1 hour,
Yeah, I mean, like
and
something that I've done that I think is one of the best. I learned this from Alex Hormozy,
okay,
who's this business dude, but it's a timer, a very simple timer.
yeah. What's that they
I
call it? Pomodoro? There was a name for the old ones. It looked like a tomato. They used to
A Pomodoro,
Pomodoro.
right? Those
Yeah,
timers. That's a whole methodology. This is just like as simple as just a real easy simple timer that you just twist.
yeah,
But it is a forcing function for me. I put down 60 minutes and guess what? I'm going to work for that 60 minutes. And when it's done, I'm done. I
yeah,
can get so much work done with the timer. And that's what
yeah.
part of this concept that we put together for
So,
everybody
so it
is.
is accountability. It's committing a dedicated block of time. But I wanted to take it one step to a different place. I'm not going to say better because the empowered hours or the power hour, two names, different groups of people creating schedules, they're amazing. And if you can do a live one, I would say grab one, you know. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of, I read a book, Trey. It was called The 100X Leader. And it was by Steve. Uh, gosh, I forgot. I mean, I'm forgetting names. But anyway, Steve's my friend, and I can't think of his last name. He's in Great Britain, and but it's about being a Sherpa. It's the 100X leader is someone who leads like a Sherpa, and that you've already climbed Mount Everest, but now what you want to do is you want to help others reach their goal. You want to help others get to the top. Steve,
Steve
you
Cockram and
Steve
Jeremy
Cochran. Yeah,
Kubicek.
you know Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
work
know
with them.
Steve and Jeremy. I couldn't think of it. Steve Cochran and Jeremy Kubicek. Sorry about that, Steve. I had one of those memory moments. But so if you want to be a Sherpa and lead, what I decided was I can't do this. I can't put all these live events on my schedule, but I could set up with Trey's help and Beth's help and Hope's help. I could set up this place where I could be your guide for an hour. That when you had time, you could go there. You don't have to have a timer because the video series will be your timer. It's about an hour. I mean, some of you might do it a little bit less than an hour because you can skip and fast forward through the videos. I don't want you to go too fast, but you've got a task that are the 5 key principles for building our business. And we focus in on memory jogger and 3-way calls and events. And we focus in on I forgot the other two, right? This has been drawn a blank. They're 5 key topics. Okay. I forgot what we named them because we're in the
Yeah,
process of
it was
recording those.
it's memory jogger, events, three-way calls, social media, and text messaging.
Yeah,
That's right.
social media and text messaging. So it's some of it's like tools that we have, but I want to walk you through a moment, a fraction of an hour, like 5 to 7 minutes on each topic. After I kind of deliver you, like, okay, I want to guide you through this process. Here's what I want you to do. And you're going to do that. And you can use it anytime you want to. You could do 2 hours today and just replay it. But we're going to have that for you. It'll be available 24/7 whenever you want to do it. And you can do it with a verbal, like a guided process, or we're going to have it also where just the instructions can be there for you and you can just walk through it in silence. You don't need my voice or me. You just need accountability. So I'm really excited about that. And we're going to come out with that. And it's just the basics. Remember, John Maxwell said, I told you earlier, leaders never get tired of the basics. And that's what I want to hold you accountable to, is just spending that hour on the basics every day.
Yeah, Curt. Well, you can find Curt pretty much on any platform at Curt Beavers. Thanks for your wisdom today. I know this was a little bit longer show, but I think there's just a lot of really good practical stuff in this. Go check out the video series as well. This is definitely more of a deep dive, but share it with your teams, share it with people. We want you to do that. You can check us out at youtube.com/make a life. And you can find our coaching calls, everything there. So appreciate your time. Appreciate you, Curt. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Can I leave with one thought? I know you
Oh,
ended it, but can I
hey,
leave with,
there you are.
let
We're
me
back.
share one more thing. We don't talk about this enough because it's very simple, but one of the things I know is you got to wake up every week and take charge of the week, and you've got to, be intentional about that week. You got to make it happen like life. You got to, life is what you make it. Well, your week is also what you make it. And we've got just a little spark that we want to add to your life that's going to come to you on Monday mornings. We're just calling it Wake Up with Curt, but it's just some little burst of energy, motivation, a thought from me that might help you take charge of your week versus just letting your week happen. And we'd love for you to text um, to that number. We'll put that on the screen, or it'll be in the footnotes here. Just text to our SMS number, and you'll be added to that list. So,
Yeah, definitely. We'll put that in the show notes. You just text wake up. Yep. All right. Well, thanks, Curt. Have a good one.
see ya.